Wagwan, it's your boy, brother Noom, says Sports Time Zone podcast host, bringing y'all another dope episode. This is going to be round 2 of the NFL playoffs. So we're going to come at y'all again and again and again until y'all recognize us as the #1 podcast for sports. My co-host, Time Zone Dave, couldn't make it today. Once again, we hope and wish that he has a speedy return back to the show real soon. Salute to you, Time Zone Dave. Shout out to everybody that's also been subscribing, also been liking and sharing and supporting the podcast. We're going to continue to give you dope content, continue to give you what you're looking for. So shout out to all of y'all. Salute. Big up on yourself, like they say back in the islands and bacayards. Big up on yourself. Anyhow, we got a real dope show lined up for y'all again. We're going to talk about and recap the games from last week of the NFL playoffs, the wild card round, so to speak. We'll also get into the preview for the next round of the NFL playoffs. We'll give you guys our picks. We'll also talk about the Joel Embiid versus Joker matchup that went down in the NBA. So we got some NBA action that we're going to get into. Also talk about a little bit of the coaching changes that are on the horizon in the NFL. Because again, as we talked about it last week, it's a lot of coaches out there that's going to be on the move. So we're going to kind of give y'all a jump start and look at a couple of those coaches and kind of see what their future might hold. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Starting off with the NFL recap from last week. Man, y'all know as a Dolphin fan, I had a rough weekend. I did predict, however, that Kansas City Chiefs most likely were going to come out on top in that game. The game was in Arrowhead Stadium. The game was in the bitter cold. I think it was like negative a million degrees or something like that. It was freezing out there. So I'm shocked that our boys even made it off the plane from Miami to even be able to go out there and stand upright for a full 4 quarters of football. But we couldn't get anything going. I mean, just to keep it 100 and keep it a buck, Tua was unable to kind of get in rhythm. Our passing game wasn't there. Our running game wasn't there. Our defense wasn't really able to hold up. Our secondary was getting torched. It was just overall a dominating performance by the Kansas City Chiefs, which are the returning champions. So I can't take anything away from them, making no excuses at all. Kansas City was the better team that day. And as I predicted, my Dolphins would struggle in that type of environment. I'm hoping we can kind of get that together for the years and the days and months and all of that that's to come. And eventually we can overcome the problems that we have playing in cold weather. But once again, we were unable to do that. So as you can see, your boy is already in vacation mode while my Dolphins are off in Cancun or Hawaii or wherever they at right now. I'm just trying to, be festive and show some of that festive love in honor of my boys getting ousted and sent packing and gone to vacation time, as they say. 1, 2, 3 Cancun, we in Cancun. So all you Dolphin haters, y'all, just eat it up right now. I know y'all love to see it, but we'll be back strong and we'll be back next year. Hopefully we can make some strong moves and we can solidify our position in the AFC East coming next year. Now, moving beyond that, the Houston Texans did beat the Cleveland Browns. As I predicted and as I told y'all last week, that boy CJ Stroud, he was in his bag. He had a big-time game. He was able to put up big numbers. The defense for the Texans also stood up by holding the Cleveland Browns to only 14 points. I was surprised to see that the Houston Texans were able to put up 45 points against such a stout defense, because the Cleveland Browns are one of the top defenses in the league, and they've been playing good defense. Perhaps not on offense, but on defense, they were always solid this year. So I was kind of shocked to see that outcome, even though I did predict that the Texans would win that game, and they definitely did their thing. So salute to CJ Stroud. I see that brother having a very, very, very bright future in the NFL. I see the Houston Texans have a star in the making on their hands, and he's making a lot of noise in the playoffs for him to be such a young player, for him to be a rookie player in these playoffs. It's almost unheard of to see him doing the things he did in that wild card round and putting up those kind of numbers. So salute to the Houston Texans, all my H-Town boys down there, body rocking, listening to DJ Screw, sipping on whatever y'all sipping on. Shout out to y'all boys. Y'all deserve this. It's been a long time coming, and I'm happy for you. I'm happy to see that you guys got a stud and that you're moving on to the next round of the playoffs. All right. The Green Bay Packers upset the Dallas Cowboys. I told y'all boys this. I told y'all last week on last week's show that Jordan Love was the real deal. Sooner or later, y'all gonna have to start listening to me. I know what I'm talking about. I watched this guy play, and he is the truth. Now, I didn't see it to the tune of putting up 48 points on the Cowboys. I did predict the Green Bay win and a Green Bay upset, but I did not see that coming. The final score was 48-32, but when I tell you it wasn't that close, the majority of those points that the Cowboys scored was in the fourth quarter towards the end of the game when it was kind of sort of garbage time and Green Bay had already taken their foot off of the pedal. So at that point, the Cowboys were able to put up some numbers. I think Dak ended up finishing with over 400 passing yards. So for that, his stats look good. But on the flip side of that, Jordan Love was torching them boys. When I tell you he was torching them, he was torching them. His wide receiver, Romeo, and I told y'all last week that I couldn't really name any of the Green Bay Packers receivers. Well, I definitely know Romeo. I know Romeo now. He put me on notice. He put the show on notice, and he put America on notice to recognize that this brother has some real serious talent, and it was a joy to watch. Not only in the passing game, but Green Bay was running the ball all over the Cowboys. I mean, Dallas could not stop nothing. They were not able to stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop anything. And Green Bay was just rolling. So for that reason, I have to give a special salute and a special shout out to Packer Nation and to all the Green Bay Packer fans, because nobody really expected y'all boys to be where you are. Nobody had y'all getting into the playoffs, let alone getting to the second round, let alone beating a Dallas Cowboy team in their own building for a right to go on and move on to the next round of the playoffs. So for that, again, Jordan Love, I don't want to give him all the props and all the credit because everybody in all facets of the game on that team did their thing and they showed up. The running game, as I mentioned, was solid. The receivers, they did their thing in getting open. And the defense, they had some really timely stops in the first half that kept the Cowboys at bay and kept them from really getting anything going. A lot of that just had to do with the Cowboys' poor play and poor execution, maybe a little bit of coaching. But let's just get credit where it's due. Green Bay's defense stood up in that first half, and they made it hard for the Cowboys to get anything going in their own building. And, and that speaks volumes. The Dallas Cowboys were one of the favorites by a lot of experts to go on and possibly win the Super Bowl. But it also goes back to show you that playing in such a weak division, as the Cowboys have played in such a weak division for many, many years, and still have not been able to get to that next level and get the job done, it just goes to show everything that glitter ain't gold. And it looked good at the beginning of the season. It was really hopeful. Everybody, all the Cowboy fans was like, oh, this is our year. We got it this year. Like they say that every year. I'm the only fan base that thinks you're going to win a championship every single year. Like, let's be real. At the beginning, it looked good, but y'all ran into a younger, hungrier, upstart team, and quite frankly, a better quarterback. Jordan Love, to me, right now, is on the incline, whereas I'm looking at the Cowboys, I'm looking at Dak, even though Dak puts up good numbers, I just see him as peaking already. He's already reached his peak as far as he's going to take this team. And I believe he's now going to start to decline. So with that being said, I feel like Jordan Love right now is just a better quarterback. He won the game, he won the duel, and he's moving his team on to the next round. So not much else I'm going to say there. I'm going to leave that there at that. But y'all Cowboy fans and Cowboys, y'all definitely got to hold that L. Y'all got to hold this L just like my Dolphins got to hold the L. But y'all got to hold this L with all those high expectations that y'all had. You got to hold the L all the way throughout the offseason, all the way until next season, and see if maybe y'all could shake that off. But some changes are going to have to be made there. And it might have to start in the front office. It might have to start in coaching. I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but y'all definitely hold that L. And I do mean that tremendously. Hold that L. Moving right along, the Detroit Lions beat the LA Rams 24-23. As I also predicted, I told y'all last week that crowd and that energy in the city of Detroit was going to be electric. It was going to be on fire, and them boys was ready to play. They came out ready to play. Now, it was a close game. It went down to the wire because, again, 24-23 is not a great margin. That's just a 1-point victory. But the Lions still pulled it out. And in games like that, the emotion, sometimes feeding off the crowd, sometimes feeding off your coach, sometimes feeding just off the atmosphere and the energy can propel a team in a close game like that. And when games are that close, you definitely need your home court advantage or your home field advantage to kick in. And it definitely did. That place was loud, it was electric, and it was rocking for the whole game. So salute to the Lions for moving on to the next round. Detroit 313, what up, though? I see y'all boys out there, and I will never, I'll never slight y'all. I'll continue to give y'all credit because you having a magical season, and it just continues. And these are some of the games. These close games are the games that it takes for you to get to that next level, for you to finally crack the code and getting into a Super Bowl run. And they really believe. This team really believes that they can get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. That's how electric it is, and that's how for real that Detroit Lions team is. So, again, shout out to the D. What up, though? Y'all boys is moving on to the next round. So, salute to you guys. Buffalo Bills versus the Steelers. The Buffalo Bills beat the Steelers 31-17. 31-17. I believe that was one of the largest margins of victory in that wild card round. There was another game that we'll get to later that was also a pretty wide margin, but Buffalo Bills, man, Buffalo looks scary right now. That team looks real scary. Josh Allen is in his rhythm. He's in his bag. The receivers, Stephon Diggs, he's doing his thing. The running game is clicking. The defense is on point. And this team, as I mentioned, they are playing their best football at the best possible time. I honestly, I don't remember. I think the last time Buffalo lost a game, that was way earlier in the season. I think it was like around Thanksgiving time, November 26th against the Eagles, and they only lost by 3 points. So basically, these boys are going on almost 2 months straight of just completely winning football games. I don't know that another team has had a stretch like that, but they are turning it on at the right time. These boys haven't lost a game since dang near Thanksgiving, and they're steamrolling through everybody. They're on a mission, and they are playing hard. And that's the type of team that most teams do not want to see. I'm telling you, nobody really wanted to see Buffalo if they made the playoffs. Now they're in, and they are wreaking havoc. Again, I'm not a Buffalo fan at all. You see what's behind me. You know that they are division rivals, but part of what I do, I have to maintain integrity. I got to keep it real. And based on what I see, Buffalo Bills look scary. They look like they're playing better than anybody else that's in the playoffs right now. They look really good. So shout out to Buffalo. Shout out to everybody up there, upstate New York, Benny, Conway, Shay Noir, my favorite female MC, favorite female rapper. of this era is from Buffalo. So shout out to her too, 38 Special. All of y'all boys, salute to y'all. Y'all have a really good squad this year. So I got to give props and credit where it's due. And this is coming from a Miami Dolphin fan. So I'm keeping it 100 for y'all. Next on the list, the Tampa Bay Bucks beat the Eagles 32-9. I'm going to repeat that again. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Philadelphia Eagles 32-9. Even though Tampa Bay was at home for this game, it still had a feel that Tampa Bay was the underdogs. Even though Philadelphia completely has fallen apart towards the end of the season, and my co-host Time Zone Dave did say that they probably just fell off a cliff and they were finished. He said that weeks ago. I still personally believed that they had enough to go in there and beat Tampa Bay just for the pride, just for their dignity, just for being the returning NFC champions with all of the hope and all of the expectations that they had coming in the season. I thought they would pull it out, but they got a mud hole stomped in them. They got stomped. They got beat down real bad. Like the Bulls got beat down. Like how they say in Philly, I don't know what was wrong with the Bulls. Them Bulls got beat down. Shout out to Tampa Bay Bucks. You know, I don't want to just take anything away from them because Baker Mayfield was out there looking like a Baker I had never seen before. This Baker Mayfield was on point. He was on time. He was poised. He was patient. He was delivering the ball. He was making the correct reads. He was doing everything that we expected Baker Mayfield to do when he first came out of college and he came into the NFL. When people, saw him as being a first round draft pick, everyone would expect this Baker. But sometimes it takes quarterbacks a little bit longer to develop and to get their mojo. And it looks like he's finding his niche now, putting up 32 points against the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. So shout out to Baker Mayfield. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, he called a really good game against an elite defense like what Philly has, because Philly does have a really good, solid defense. And for Baker Mayfield, Byron Leftwich, and the Tampa Bay Bucks to handle the business the way that they did and beat them in the fashion that they did, that speaks volumes. It also speaks that those boys are being overlooked. But switching over to the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know what's up with Jalen Hurts. I was watching him. I'm watching his motions. I'm watching him deliver the ball. I'm watching his pre-snap motions and all of that. And it just, I don't know. I'm not making excuses for them boys, but it made me wonder if Jalen Hurts was hurt. No pun intended. But it looked like your boy, there was something wrong with him. Like he wasn't his normal self. Maybe it's something mental. Maybe it's something in the locker room going on. And the team just overall looked disjointed. I didn't see much cohesiveness. I didn't see much sense of urgency. I didn't see, an attack mentality. It just looked like the same Eagles that we've been seeing for the last couple of weeks, where I thought we would see the Eagles that we saw from the first couple of weeks of the season. But this Eagles team, they looked real bad. They didn't look like they even wanted to be there. So with that being said, salute to Tampa Bay. All of my people down in Tampa, I know y'all enjoying this. Y'all loving it. Central Florida, y'all stand up. At least we got a Florida team in there, even though it's not the 305 boys. We still got some of them Tampa boys in there. What's that, the 813? Salute to y'all, and for y'all to get into where y'all got. So everybody in the state of Florida should be pulling for Tampa Bay right now. Everybody should be rooting, or at least happy for them. And I'm definitely happy for the Tampa Bay Bucks in pulling off what they pulled off. So that's pretty much the recaps of the wild card week. So now what we'll do is we'll switch over to what we have coming up in our NFL playoff predictions. All right. So we got this week, or this coming round of the NFL playoffs, is going to be a hard or more difficult round to pick games, because in round one, people can pretty much see who the better teams are. People pretty much see, who the teams that squeaked in, who might be an early or easy out. But in round two, the teams that make it to round two and that are in round two, those teams had to fight to get there. Whatever their position is in that round, they had to earn that. So now you're dealing with teams that are up against each other that worked for where they are. They didn't just squeak in. They actually worked to get where they are. So these games, picking and predicting these games are a little bit more challenging because the margin for error on both teams is minimal, and both teams will be playing at a high level. So let's start off with the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud going up against Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. The Ravens have had a whole week off to rest. They've been chilling. They've had their feet up. They've been watching all of this other action. They've had a chance to, for some of their players that are a little banged up to heal up a little bit. And they, quite frankly, should be fresh. They should be a fresh team ready to roll. Now, how much will rust play a factor? Because they're going up against a team in the Houston Texans that not only did they just play last week, they won in convincing, dominating fashion. So when a team is rolling like that and they're clicking like that, and they go up against a team that had a week off and hasn't played in a couple of weeks, Lamar, it's been a little longer because Lamar Jackson, let's remember, he didn't play in that last regular season game once they knew that Baltimore already had that number one seed locked up. So Lamar may face a little more rust than the rest of the team. But all in all, I just don't know that the Texans and CJ Stroud are really ready to dethrone a team like the Ravens. And the last time we saw the Baltimore Ravens playing at full strength with Lamar out there and with all the other pieces out there, that offense looked really, really great. I won't say they look good. They look great. Lamar, if he becomes a scrambling, which he already is, but if he becomes a scrambling quarterback that's scrambling to look to get his receivers open, as we saw that Lamar over the course of this season, that's a nightmare for any team to have to face and go against. I don't know if the Texans defense is going to be able to slow him down or even have an answer for that. He creates so much chaos down the field because he's moving around in the pocket, and the DBs and the defense for the other team is trying to stick with their receivers and keep their man in front of them. But at the same time, they also got to wake up and make sure that Lamar doesn't take off for like a 30, 40-yard scant, because he can do that easily. So when you have that kind of Lamar playing, I don't know that they can be beat, to be honest with you. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens to win that game. Taking nothing against H-Town, taking nothing against CJ. I just think this game is just the wrong game for them to try to earn their scraps off of. Lamar is kind of on a mission right now. He changed his style of play slightly just to show and just to, make his team better and to show the public that I'm not just a take off and run guy. I got an arm. I can scramble. I can get my receivers open and I can hit them. Their running game has also been on point. And the Baltimore defense, their defense is hard nosed. So with all that being said, I like Baltimore Ravens to win that game. It should be a fairly easily attained victory. I don't see them having much trouble with the Texans other than maybe some early rust, maybe the first quarter, early second quarter. There may be some rust that we see from Lamar. Maybe he overthrows a couple of receivers. Maybe he underthrows. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't see the rust being sustained throughout the entire game. I think eventually at some point they'll get it together, knock off the rust, and have enough to take care of the Houston Texans. So I like the Baltimore Ravens to win that game. The next game I struggled with a little bit in trying to make a pick for, the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers. Initially, I was going with the 49ers because they're at home and they're just by far on paper, when you look at them, just a much better team. They've had a marginally better season than what Green Bay had. Green Bay picked up some steam towards the end of the season and kind of rattled off some victories to get themselves in the playoffs. And then, of course, they dominated the Cowboys to get to this round. But San Francisco has been consistent and steady throughout the season. They haven't really had much hiccups other than maybe a couple of times where Brock Purdy had a bad game here and there, and the team suffered because of it. But with San Francisco being at home, I don't see them really having that kind of effort again versus a team like Green Bay. However, I started off on this Jordan Love campaign, and I'm going to keep it going. I'm picking the Green Bay Packers as my upset of the round to go into San Francisco and pull off that upset. I'm not going to give a score. I'm not going to say how. I'm just going to say that I believe, and this is the ride. I believe that this is the ride that Jordan Love is taking us on right now. And he's also proving and showing that he belongs in the NFL. And I don't believe he's done writing his history or his stamp on this year's playoffs. So with that being said, I do like Green Bay in an upset. Don't at me. Don't do none of that. I know y'all West Coast 49er fans are looking at me like, what? This dude is really tripping. But that's the same way Cowboy fans looked at me last week when I said Green Bay was going to go in there and upset the Cowboys in Jerry's world. So just stick with me on this one. But I like Green Bay, and that's going to be my upset game of the week. Y'all book it and y'all lay around for it. All right. Tampa Bay at the Detroit Lions. This game is this will probably be the best, maybe one of the best. There may be one more game that I think might be as good as this one, but this is going to probably be one of the best games of the playoffs overall. Tampa Bay going into Detroit. As I mentioned before, Tampa Bay just had a really, really good, solid all-around showing on offense. Baker Mayfield is doing his thing right now. He's in his bag. He's getting what he wants, and he is showing poise. Detroit is back in their building at home, playing in that electric environment and that electric atmosphere, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And what could be a game that could punch their ticket to moving them one step closer to their goal. As I said earlier, this feels like a magical ride, a magical journey that the Detroit Lions are on right now. It feels kind of like there's a team of destiny. And from game one of this season, when they went into Kansas City and won that first game against the champions, I said there's something about this team that's special, and they could go a long, long way. So when the smoke clears and when it's all said and done, I like Detroit to win this game. All of my Florida people, y'all stay with me on this one. Y'all don't abandon me. Don't start hitting me with all types of hate mail and all that. I'm 305 till I die. I'm always going to rep Florida, always. But again, I got to have some integrity, and I have to go with what I see. And based on what I see and what I feel, even though Tampa Bay had a larger margin of victory in their first round than Detroit did, I think Detroit is the team of destiny this year. So I like Detroit to hold down their home fort, their home field, and to overcome Tampa Bay and the great offense that Tampa Bay is playing, because they are playing great offense. As I mentioned, salute to Byron Leftwich. He's calling great, great games out here. He's doing his thing, and he's probably going to be a head coach real soon. You can't keep holding this brother down, NFL. He's proven that he deserves a shot at being a head guy somewhere. So I'm hoping that y'all look at this and see his performance in these playoffs and say, okay, gosh, this guy definitely deserves to be a head coach somewhere. So I do want to see that. But all in all, for this game, I got the Detroit Lions winning that one. Close game, but I got the Lions winning. All right, moving right along. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. This is the other game that I think that may be the game of the playoffs. I think this is going to be a really, really entertaining, good, hard hitting game. This game is going to be in Buffalo, so I'm sure the conditions are going to be pretty cold. Might even see some snow flurries, similar to what we saw in Kansas City game. It's going to be really, really cold out there. Both teams seem to play well in cold weather, so I don't see that this is going to affect either, one team more than the other team. Buffalo is at home, so having that home crowd will be a big boost for them. But when you're playing against a team like Kansas City Chiefs, they've seen it all. They've won games everywhere. They have multiple championships. Patrick Mahomes is a multi-time Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl champion. So I don't think he's going to be phased too much by the atmosphere or the snowballs that they be throwing, the fans be trying to throw in Buffalo. I don't think any of that is going to take Patrick Mahomes off of his square. And Andy Reid, he's a proven coach. He's been in these situations numbers of times. I don't see this rattling him or his team. I see it being a close game, a very entertaining game. But I like Kansas City. I like Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. They're the champions. Hey, in order to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Kansas City is the man. And until somebody beats them, I got to go with them. And I'm going to go with them. They put up big numbers against my Dolphins. They scored 20. They beat us 26-7. And they're the champions. So why would I not go with the championship team? There's nothing that I've seen from them that makes me believe that they're going to lose this game. Even though Buffalo is on a streak. When I tell you a streak, Buffalo hasn't lost a game again since Thanksgiving. Okay, that's a long time to go without a loss. But even with all of that being said, I still like Kansas City because they are the champions. They have the pedigree, they have the poise, and they have Patrick Mahomes. So I like Kansas City to win that one. This is going to be also a close game, but even with that, I like my chances with Kansas City. So we'll lay around for that and see how that looks next week whenever we finally get a chance to go over who won, who didn't win, who looked good, who didn't look good, whatever the case is. We're going to go over all that next week, and we're going to see how that worked out. Now, moving right along, I want to also take this moment to talk about the coaching, a couple of coaches in the NFL, namely Mike McCarthy and Sirianni for the Philadelphia Eagles. Both of those coaches appear to be on a hot seat right now, and they both kind of underachieved based on what their expectations were from management, from fans, from just everybody in the sports world. So taking a deeper dive at these two guys and kind of seeing what their futures may hold, let's just paint a little picture for you. Mike McCarthy, all right, after that game where they got a mud hole stomped into them by the Green Bay Packers, Jerry Jones, after that game, he looked like he was crying. I could see, like, if you look deep into his, I don't even know if they're eyes or whatever. He like the crypt keeper to me, but I could see tears and eyes watering and the redness in his face. It looked like he might not have made it out of that stadium the way he was looking. I haven't seen like him look that disappointed in a long time. I don't know that I've ever seen him look that disappointed. I've seen him look disgusted. I've seen him angry. I've seen him just, look like he didn't want to be there, but he looked sad. He looked sad, like sad, like as if that was his last opportunity that he thought that he would get to see his team win a championship again. I mean, you watch your team get blown out at home by a younger team, a more inexperienced team, and a team that had zero expectations going into this season. Not to mention, again, the Cowboys have played in historically one of the worst divisions, one of the sorriest divisions in football. The team that owned that division all season long, which is the Philly Eagles, did a nosedive and tanked. So it was wide open for Dallas to walk in there, take the division, which they did, and also move on to the next round. But that didn't happen. Those boys got pimp slapped in their own building, backhand style, open hand style, across the mouth. It was me personally, being that I'm not a Cowboy fan and I could personally care less about them. It was quite entertaining for me, but I was looking in the crowd at some of those fans, and those boys was looking sad. They were looking really sad. They were looking distraught. I mean, after the game, Cowboy fans don't want to talk to nobody. They angry. They throwing stuff. They're mad. But it ultimately all is going to come down on the head of the coach, Mike McCarthy. He's had a few seasons now that ended like this, with high expectations but low output. And when you have that many seasons like that, and this continues to happen, at some point, Jerry Jones, he's going to toss your ass up out of there. At some point, Jerry Jones is going to have enough. And when I looked in his eyes and saw those tears, it looked like he had had enough. Somebody's head is going to roll. I don't know if it's McCarthy. I'm assuming it might be. It could be somebody else. It could be Dak. It could be the offensive coordinator. It could be the defensive coordinator. Who knows who it could be? But something is going to happen in Dallas, and I could see it in Jerry Jones' eyes. He looked sad. He looked more sad than the fans look. He looked sad. So y'all watch that. Some of the names that's been tossed around of possible replacements for Mike McCarthy if he does get the boot. I mean, I've been hearing Byron Leftwich. I've been hearing Zimmer, the former Vikings coach. I've been hearing Dan Quinn, the D coordinator for the Cowboys. I even heard Bill Belichick, which might actually make the most sense out of all of the other coaches that I've heard. Because Bill Belichick, he said he wants to coach an underachieving team that has talent and has some veterans. That's the Cowboys. They're an underachieving team. They've got talent at a lot of different positions, and they've got a team of veterans. They don't have a whole bunch of young players. They have some experience behind their back. So with that being said, Bill Belichick stands out as probably the name that makes the most sense out of everybody else. But y'all definitely pay attention to that coaching situation in Dallas, because Jerry Jones looks sad. And when he looks sad, something happens. Something's going to happen. Y'all just lay around for that. So y'all watch that. Moving over to the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni. Dude, you had one of the most epic collapses I've ever seen late in a season. And then on top of that, you get blown out in the first round of the playoffs. I don't know that I've ever seen a team start off so hot, have total control of the division, have total control over mostly of the NFC for the most part of the season, and then go on an epic collapsing skid on their last few games of the season. I mean, it was bad. And in the game that they lost in these playoffs, they got blown out. And it was so bad that the Eagles fans were dumping buckets of popcorn on Coach Sirianni's head as he exited through the tunnel to get out of there. Now, this is on the visiting team's turf, but Philly has such a broad fan base that their fans travel, and they got fans everywhere. There's Eagle fans in every part of the country. So yes, in Tampa Bay, there was a good amount of Eagle fans that were there. And yeah, most of them left way before the end of the game. But the ones that stayed there, one of them took a bucket of popcorn and dumped it on Sirianni's dome piece as he was walking into the tunnel leaving. That kind of sums it up for me right there. That says it all right there. In the compound that, after the game, Jalen Hurts was asked if he wanted Sirianni back for another season. And his response, and I quote, "I didn't know he was going anywhere." That's what your quarterback is saying about the possibility of you being moved or getting a boot. He didn't say, no, he's my coach. I back him up. I support him. Of course, I want to see him coming back. I'm looking forward to it. He's a great he didn't say none of that. He said, well, I didn't know he was leaving. What is that? That tells me right there that the coach and the quarterback are not on the same page. Maybe there's some kind of friction going on between them. Maybe there was an issue of play calling. Maybe something going on in practice. I don't know, but it's clear that Jalen Hurts does not have his coach's back in this one. And sometimes, when the ship is sinking, the person that's steering the ship is the one who gets tossed over first. And in this case, Coach Sirianni, you might be that guy. So I feel strongly that there's going to be changes made in Philly other than Kelsey retiring. Shout out to you. Salute to Kelsey, one of the greatest centers that I've ever seen play the game. Salute to you. And I know you're going to have a wonderful life after football. But this is one of the most epic collapses that I have ever witnessed in all of my life of watching football. And there will be some changes. There will be some changes made in Philly. Mark my word. I personally think it's going to start with the coach. So with that being said, with those two coaches, I definitely think there's a strong likelihood that one or both of them will be moved and an adjustment will be made as the weeks progress, as the days progress. Who knows? We might wake up tomorrow and one of them boys is gone. So let's just lay around for it and let's see what happens with that. All right. Now, moving on to the NBA. NBA action. There was a great game on last night on tap that I had an opportunity to catch, and I was glued to this one. The 76ers of Philly, speaking of Philly, beat the Denver Nuggets 126-121. Joker had 25 points, 19 rebounds, which is by any means or by any stretch outstanding numbers. Those are all-star / MVP numbers, which he is, an all-star / MVP. 25 points, 19 rebounds. Jamal Murray, his teammate, chipped in with 17 for 16. He also had 7 rebounds. So Jamal Murray gave Joker some help that he needed. On the flip side of that, Joel Embiid had 41 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, and his partner had 25 points and 9 assists. Joel Embiid, I don't know if y'all watched this game, but Joel Embiid was definitely feeling it last night. I mean, he was hitting step back J's. He hit y'all with a Euro step, post fade. He was looking for Joker on ISO plays. Whenever Embiid caught the ball, he was looking to see if Joker was on him or anybody on a one-on-one, and he was immediately attacking. He was in attack mode and putting on a show. In my opinion, that game is the embodiment of Joel Embiid. He's a competitor, he's extremely talented, and he's a winner. When he feels that there's someone on the court who is challenging his position, or there's someone who the league or anyone says is one of the best or better than him, he elevates his game to a higher level. And that's what we saw last night with 41 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. Now, just looking at the matchup between Embiid and Joker itself, because that seemed to be big talk that's been going on over the last 3 years. Who's the best center in the league? Who's the better big man? Who should be the MVP? Who's the best guy? I personally always felt like Embiid was the better of the two. I still feel like he's the better of the two. I feel like Embiid is the best center in the league when we're talking about both on offense and defense, not just on one side of the ball, but on both sides of the ball. Embiid can dominate a game. Not saying that Joker doesn't. Joker dominates the game in a different way. But from what I see in my eyes, and when they play each other, Embiid seems to always get the upper hand. These guys have played each other 8 times in their careers. All right. Embiid is 6-2 against Joker. That means he's won 6 games. Joker's only won 2 games whenever they play against each other head to head. Stats when they play against each other. Again, this is just when they play each other. Embiid scores 28 points, 11 rebounds. He averages 4 assists and 2 blocks whenever they play each other. Joker, when they play each other, gives you 22 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists with 1 block. Okay. The stats are pretty close when you look at them in a vacuum when they play each other. So I look at head to head. And head to head, Embiid always or most of the time has the upper hand on Joker. At this point, Embiid should be the front runner for MVP. For the season, for this season, Joel Embiid is averaging 34 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks a game. Let me run that stat line back one more time. This is what he's averaging for the season. 34 points, 12 rebounds a game, 6 assists, and 2 blocks. If those are not MVP numbers, I don't know what type of agenda the NBA is trying to push, because there's no way someone can have a stat line like that for their season average and not be the MVP, especially when the other front runner for MVP is who he put up similar numbers against. He just dropped 41 on Joker's head. So how can Embiid not be the best center and the MVP of this NBA league and this season? So we just have to sit there and watch and wait and see, make sure, and I hope that, he stays healthy so we don't have no injury excuses as to why they don't want to give him the MVP. But he should definitely, you're hearing it from your boy, brother Numsi. Joel Embiid should be the MVP of this NBA season. With these kind of numbers, if he continues the season with these numbers, and if he's not the MVP, I'm going off. I'm going completely off. And I'm going to hold everybody in the league accountable, not just the voters, but the teams. I'm also holding the sports networks that continue to push these agendas on who they like and who they feel like should be the MVP, not based on what is done on the court or by the numbers. They're going by who they like. And I don't like that. So if that happens this season and Embiid does not get MVP, it's going to be a lot of smoke. It's going to be a whole lot of smoke. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing how that turns out. Now, let's get into our history moment of the week. This is the time of the show where I like to give you guys a little bit of education and talk about a historic fact in sports that contributed to where we are today in sports. And y'all pay attention, because y'all actually might learn something by listening and paying attention to my history moment of the week. History is very important, and it's an intricate part of sports. So let's get into this week's history moment of the week. This history moment of the week is brought to you by KE Creations. Once again, if you're looking for any kind of graphic designs to go on shirts, to go on socks, to go on a hat, to go on anything that you can imagine, get at me and I will put you in connection with KE Creations. They do excellent work and they'll get you right. So salute to KE Creations once again. Now for the history moment. On this very day in 1961, 1961, it's before a lot of our time, but still it's important. On this day in 1961, in the 11th NBA All-Star game, the 11th All-Star game that the NBA had, Oscar Robinson, aka the Big O, becomes the youngest player to ever win All-Star MVP. He had 23 points, 14 assists in that game as the West beat the East by a score of 153 to 131. That was huge because by Oscar winning MVP that young in an All-Star game, it opened up the door for a lot of new young All-Stars for years after that to come in and just ball out in the All-Star game. I have a lot of great All-Star game memories that I can throw at y'all. One that sticks out in my mind was Magic Johnson's last All-Star game when he played against Isaiah Thomas. Then there was also the All-Star game when Kobe and Michael Jordan were going at each other. There's the All-Star game where LeBron and Kobe was going at each other. So there's lots of different All-Star memories, but this fact of the history moment is saluting to the big O, Oscar Robertson, for being the youngest player ever to win All-Star MVP, and he did it in MVP fashion, 23 points and 14 assists. So again, salute to the big O, Oscar Robertson. Wrapping it up now with our 2-minute drill. Not really much to go into the 2-minute drill, so it's going to be more like a 1-minute drill. But the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors made a huge trade today, as a matter of fact. It just happened. The Indiana Pacers sent Bruce Brown, Buddy Hield, and a first-round pick to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Pascal Siakam. That is going to be a really good deal for the Pacers. The Pacers are coming back with a proven all-star who has finals experience, NBA finals experience, a versatile player with some length who can play defense. He can rebound. He can shoot the three. So Pascal Siakam is headed to Indiana, y'all. I just pray and hope that at some point my Miami Heat make a deal that improves our team's roster because, I mean, looking at it, we could use a little bit of help. So, Pat Riley, if you're listening or if you're watching, which you're probably not, but somebody share this and send this to Pat Riley, please make a deal. We're watching everybody get better. The New York Knicks are making trades. They just got better. Boston Celtics, they revamped. They come back with Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Indiana now, Pascal Siakam. I mean, come on. Pat Riley, let's do something. Just something. I ain't going to harp too much on that, but that's all I got for you on the 2-minute drill. So once again, I appreciate everybody who's been supporting, who's been showing love, who's been subscribing, liking, and sharing and everything like that. Y'all continue to show some love to your boy and support. We're going to see how my picks looked and how they shaped up next week. We hope to have Time Zone Dave back with us next week, so we look forward to that. Time Zone, salute to you, Dave, and everybody else who's been showing love to us. So once again, thanks for being a part of this, and we'll see y'all next week on the Sports Time Zone. Brother Noom say, oh.